What's up, everybody? You're very welcome along to this week's Cop the Week with myself, Steve Bland, and Mr. Paddy Murphy. We are going to unpack everything that's happened over the past week or so, from the Arsenal first leg to the Brentford game to hopefully a second leg on Thursday. As always, though, I want to start off by saying a massive thank you to our sponsors, Manscaped. Don't forget you can get 20% off and free shipping store-wide at manscaped.com. by using our discount code WFM20, whether that's the Performance Package 4.0, the 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner, the body wash, or the new fragrance, whatever your little heart desires. 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Steve, it feels like a minute, mate, since we've spoken.
I missed last. Did I miss last week? Yeah, I missed last week. But then so did you. You were sunning yourself on some beautiful beach somewhere. And I saw some pretty concerning pictures. Somebody obviously doesn't know you well enough because they let you tear around in what looked like some sort of dune buggy or something. So
yeah, but if it makes you feel better, my wife did commandeer the vehicle for most of the time we had it.
That's good. That makes me actually. Yeah, that reassures me that you were in safe hands.
Yeah, it was good fun. It was lovely. Yeah, it was very good.
Looked good, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice to get some winter sun. It definitely needed. And Paddy, how have you been, mate?
Very good, yeah. Just flat out. Seem to be doing a stream. I love this. Streams every day, talking nonsense online, and for some reason people are listening. So yeah, very good.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out that last bit about why people are listening, Paddy. But we'll keep blagging it while people are kind
of. Let's not pull up that thread too hard, eh? Let's not.
No, what better place to start, gents, than a little look ahead to Thursday. Now, we know that the North London Derby was postponed. Obviously, they put their case to the Premier League. The Premier League looked at it and said, fair enough. It's come out today, Steve, that the second leg at the Emirates on Thursday could be under a bit of threat now as well. And there's potential that could be postponed because of the situation going on at Arsenal. Now, you're the rational one in the group. You're the lead of the trio here.
Yeah.
How do you find this situation? Not just for the Arsenal thing, but we touched on it before we started about Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher and others speaking about, hey, enough is enough now. We need to draw a line in the sand.
Yeah, I was saying to you just before you hit the live button that I read something about Bayern Munich. I think people will tell me if I'm wrong, but I think their game at the weekend, they had a bench full of people without even 1 minute of first team experience. This is not happening all over Europe in terms of the postponements, I don't think. And I don't like to do this very often, for obvious reasons, but I'm with Gary Neville. We have to stop this. We have to stop it. We absolutely have to stop it because it's getting silly. I don't. Maybe I'm getting cynical in my old age, but I just. Teams are trying it on, aren't they? And that's what's happening. They've got injuries. They've got AFCON, and they probably got a bit of COVID, so they're trying it on. But you can't tell me there were 33 cases this week out of goodness knows 20 Premier League sides, each with a 25-man squad and a bunch of under 23s or whatever. I'm not going to do the maths. That's an awful lot of players, awful lot of footballers, particularly for the high-end clubs that have got basically 2 teams, 2.5 teams of top quality international players. And the notion that they can't put a team out. Burnley said this week, Sean Dyche had on the radio earlier saying he had 10 players. Well, where are the other 15 in your squad? Because you're not telling me 15 of them make up the 33 or however many it was last week, or it's just not right. People are teams are trying it on, and I'm sure AFCON is playing a part. I'm sure injuries are playing a part. I'm sure the time of year is playing a part. We know there's a lot of games at this time of year, but I just don't like it. And I think at some point we're going to run into real difficulties, with scheduling and stuff because it's getting silly.
Look, Paddy, I understand that teams are struggling to get bodies out there, and I have sympathy with Arsenal like I do with any other team, and like us when we had to look for it to be postponed. Where my sympathy runs out, Paddy, is when you're sending 2 lads out on loan and then saying that you've got no bodies. When you send Maitland-Niles and I think Balogun was the other one, that's where my sympathy runs dry. You could have kept those guys in. It's nobody else's fault. Granit Xhaka picked up a silly yellow as well, or silly red, which rules him out. So that's where I draw the line for me personally. The COVID stuff, I wish Odegaard a speedy recovery like anybody else that picks up the illness. But yeah, I have to say, mate, this isn't a great look for the league as a whole, I think. And I agree with Steve and Gary Neville. Time to plough on.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I echo what Steve said and yourself there. Like, there has to be a line drawn somewhere. Otherwise, people are going to do it just for the sake of doing it now. Be like, well, if they could do it, I'm going to do it. I'm of the opinion that unless you cannot like physically field the 11 and a couple on the bench, then you have to play, no matter if it's youngsters or not. With us, with the Arsenal, I know we got it. We got the gift of getting that postponed, but we seem to be in a much worse position. But I'm of the opinion that if you can field the 11 with a couple of subs, then you should be made to play, because as Steve said, there's going to be a serious headache in trying to fit these fixtures in. There's some clubs already like 4 games, 5 games behind. There's some ludicrous stuff going on. And if you don't draw a line on it somewhere, it's going to grow on and on and on. And we could be playing this Premier League season into bloody September. It's just getting ludicrous. And it impacts things, because we need to have a clear picture of what's going on in the league, who needs to play who in the battles for relegation, top 4, the title, if there is going to be a battle. You know, if suddenly like City you get like another couple of games in hand, like, you know, it just becomes messy. And I agree, absolutely. And Arsenal loaning out a player is a farce. And when they said they couldn't field, you know, it's a joke. If you have to play a centre back at bloody striker, play him. Loaning out players when you just got a postponement is a joke, and that's why they shouldn't get the postponement for this semi-final. If that's what they're angling for.
You know, we probably shouldn't have had one either, because I'm sure we could have probably put a team out for the game that we had postponed. You know, we're not immune to that. You know, we're in the same boat. Like, I've no doubt we tried it on a little bit to a degree because of injuries and because of the AFCON and stuff like that.
Well, I don't get those, Steve,
but we're trying it on though. So we're trying it on because the Premier League are allowing clubs to try it on, and why shouldn't they to a degree? It just needs a line. Burnley have 4 games in hand over some teams around them now, which is fine. You say on one side, yeah, that's fine, but they're bottom of the table, 11 points. You know, that puts a lot of pressure on having games in hand. Like Paddy says, you need to know where you are in relation to other clubs around you. Tottenham, I think, have got a bunch of games in hand, haven't they? It's ridiculous.
There's some subplots to this, though, gents. And one of the points being raised is a very valid point. I think it may have came from Dean Smith, or maybe one of the managers in and around the relegation places, that said that they don't want any players that might be signed during this month to be allowed to play in those games that have been postponed. And I have to say, I agree. I absolutely understand where he's coming from, because 1 point, 2 points could be the difference between relegation. And if Newcastle, maybe as an example, went out and signed some players, they could absolutely strengthen. I mean, they've already gone in and weakened their rivals completely legitimately by buying Chris Wood, triggering that release clause and buying him. So, yeah, there certainly is some subplots going on here, Steve, as well.
Yeah, massively, and you can fully understand that, can't you? That happens with FA Cup replays and things, doesn't it? If your player wasn't registered for the first game, they can't play in the second game. Yeah, but I mean, you're looking at a game this week now with and annoyingly, I took a bit of a punt on Emmanuel Dennis as my fantasy league captain, because he had 2 quite easy games, and his second one being Burnley, and that's going to be cancelled. But that had already been cancelled from. Was it before Christmas or something? So postponed rather than cancelled. Sorry. So you're going to get it just gets ridiculously messy. But then then you think about drawing a line under it. Well, somebody would say, well, they had their game cancelled. We got the same issue, then we're not. It's going to be very difficult for them to draw a line. So yeah, they've just got themselves in a right mess with that. Where I think they let probably a bit too much go, a few weeks back when it was sort of coming on quite strong, but it was still not getting, the cases, 33 cases, and that'll include some of the kids, that'll include some, it's not going to be all your best players, or like, I just don't get it. I'm totally on Gary Neville's side. It's absolutely ridiculous. And
now, Steve, if you need to go and wash yourself, don't forget 2-in-1. Sea salt and aloe vera.
I know it feels.
If you're feeling dirty, you need a wash.
It feels bad, doesn't it? It feels bad but he's. I used to absolutely hate him. Obviously, as a player, we all did. But he's a decent pundit, isn't he? I think he's generally pretty fair, and I'm a bit less inclined to. Rants a bit.
Mayor Gary Neville, by the way, in the future. Could be
I'm not really in Greater Manchester, but yeah, not too far away. It could be. I mean, Paris, I thought.
So, Paddy, what do we think to the Rafael Benitez situation at Everton, mate? I mean, was he unlucky or was it justified? Or I mean, how do you feel about it from that perspective? Obviously, we want to see
Yeah,
Everton languish. That's fair. It's part of the
yeah.
story.
It's a weird one because, as I said, like my brother's an Everton fan, so I've always weirdly had a soft spot for Everton. My mother used to live in Liverpool; they used to go to Everton games. I was the one that got away, so I never hate Everton because they're only little old Everton. It's not like they've ever been good in my lifetime anyway. They've never been a threat, shall we say? So,
How old are you, Paddy? Just mind me asking.
24.
24. Yeah.
So obviously, I wasn't born the last time they won a trophy in '95. So
No.
you know what I mean. Yeah. So
God, that makes me feel old.
I watched that game. Like,
you're
I'm watching.
You're
that
both
game
probably
before.
fitter than me, to be fair. So the age is just
I'm
a number.
definitely not.
Age is
He is. I'm not.
No, but with the Everton stuff. So I've never when he signed for them, I was like, in a weird way, I wanted him to do well, but not obviously ever well enough to go near us. But Everton are just strange. They're after getting rid of Digne for 25. He brought in his own signing, Mikalenko, brought in Patterson from Rangers. They were looking at a few others. He wasn't given a chance to implement anything really. Like the football world is too fickle these days. Managers get about 5 minutes in the grand scheme of things, and he said that in his statement. He was like, "Well, listen, we had a lot of key players out, and my signings didn't get a chance to. So, listen, if Everton think that sacking one of the best managers they've probably ever had, realistically, they're not. Who are they going to bring in that's going to magically change things? And now they're going to have to play with another team's signings, and it doesn't make sense. I would have given them till the end of the season, but I think losing to Norwich that was the end. You just can't lose to Norwich. Like losing to Norwich is like, okay, wow, we are really shit. And I think there was too much pressure on them ultimately. I think the fact that he was a former Liverpool manager, the writing was already on the wall. I think if he didn't have that connection, he may have got a little bit longer. But that would just everything else just meant good job though by Agent Rafa.
He does though, Steve, like to speak up, doesn't he? When he's at a club, Rafa, he's not shy about having a little go with the board and stuff.
Yeah, it's a funny one, this, isn't it? Like, there's a few things going on here. Like on the one hand, I don't think there's one Everton fan, who thinks that he is in any way the root of the problem. They have got problems coming out of their ears, haven't they? There's that stuff that Kieran Maguire did a few weeks back, looking at all the FFP leeway, and they were 30 mil the wrong side of FFP already before they even spend any money. They've just been so badly run for, I don't know, I was going to say 10 years, but going back even further, certainly since Mashiri came in terms of, signings and in terms of, recruitment has been absolutely dreadful. They were a great club when they accepted that they were quite small, when they were David Moyes' club. When they were David Moyes' club, and they and that's not even meant to be a criticism or an insult. When they understood what they were, and they bought Tim Cahill and they bought Seamus Coleman and they bought, like real hard-working professionals, and as soon as they started to try and spend money, then it all went a bit pear-shaped, didn't it? So there's a few things going wrong. Like, yeah, he isn't by any stretch the root of the problem. They've got massive problems, but on the flip side to that is, I had Everton mate say to me the other day, but the results have been diabolical, haven't they? 1 win in 13, and I to be fair, I did think that he would do better than he's done, even with the challenges, even with the players. I thought he'd at least make them hard to beat. I think the fit was just so wrong, wasn't it? You could tell, like the state that Everton were in, and somebody made the point on 5 Live earlier. I was listening. The state that Everton were in, they need someone to galvanise them, to get the fans off their seats a little bit, even if they're not like tactically amazing. They need someone to get them going a bit and get the crowd going. And Danny Murphy was saying on TalkSport, I think, that he's not that guy. He's quite cold. He's not that personable with the players and stuff. So they're just everything about every appointment has been ridiculous, hasn't it? The Mashiri's made just appointment after appointment, and they've all been bad. And I mean, if they're going back to Martinez, the guy got hounded out. There were protests. There were like sitting protests, and then
they love a protest, mate. They love it.
Man alive, like they're going to get him back. I know, you could argue he's a different coach. He's been coaching with different level of players. Hasn't actually done anything with Belgium, has he? Really. But I just honestly, you know, if you're an Everton fan, you must be just tearing what hair you have left out. It's ridiculous.
I want to move on a little bit. Paddy, apparently Mohamed Salah is not in the best 24 players in the world. There's a bit of a breaking news story today.
What was that? That graphic that you
the FIFA
said?
Best Awards.
I thought he was not third. I thought he came third, didn't he?
Not only did he not make the best 11, which they shoehorned Cristiano Ronaldo into somehow, Paddy, he also didn't make the best 23 or 24, which I don't know. I don't know, mate. I mean, you're on mute before you.
It's an absolute disgrace. Like whatever the best 11, he should have been in that anyway. But to not be in the best 23 or 24, I don't know what more the man has to do. Yeah, admittedly, like the second half of like
Danny fucking Alves is in there.
Yeah, that is a strange one. I know Dani Alves like maybe played all right for his home in Flamengo and the Olympics, but Jesus Christ, like I think when you see Dani Alves in it, it's like, okay, well, we obviously don't need to take these two seriously. It really is annoying, but in a weird way, that'll just motivate Mohamed Salah even more. And he's a dangerous man when he's like angered. So listen, let them have that little Mickey Mouse award. Mohamed Salah's coming for the Ballon d'Or next year, and there's nobody stopping him.
I love that. I love that. A little bit of a tidbit today, gents, on social media. I don't know if you've seen Rami Abbas tagging Fabrizio Romano in there. I mean, I don't know what it's all about, but I think there's a little bit of pot stirring going on, Steve.
He's a little stirrer, isn't he, Rami Abbas? I don't know with I'm still very much in the camp I've been in the whole time along with Mo Salah, that I just have faith in the intelligence of anybody. It doesn't like the intelligence of, even if it was my 6-year-old son running Liverpool Football Club, that he would see how important Mo Salah is to us. And so I'm still very much not too concerned. Well, a really interesting, thing somebody said the other day, and I think, in 18 months' time, as we stand now, Salah, Mane, and Firmino could all leave on free transfers as we stand now, which is it's pretty extraordinary, really, isn't it? Considering where we were, a year or two ago in terms of how highly they were thought of as a trio, and we could be. I don't think it will come to that, but it's interesting. We've talked before, haven't we, about who out of the three will get contracts, who won't. My feeling is probably they all won't. Don't know who won't, but they all won't.
Yeah, I think the general consensus is probably with you on that one. We all hope Mo will, and then it'll be a case of what happens. But that does bring me round, Steve, to a conversation that often lands you in trouble when we have it, and that's about the owners. And I say land you in trouble because, you being the rational one out of us, often at times you look at the bigger picture and see both sides of a story, whereas I'm a little bit more of a gunslinger and like to run my mouth a bit at times. But
really?
I know, it's a bit of a shock. You probably didn't see that one coming, but I think, look, where we are now is, you even see in the media, people starting to say about, is this Liverpool's plan here? Was the plan during January really always to do this? And it's not a great look, mate. It isn't where we are in transfers.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. I've got nothing. I've got nothing. I would love to offer some defense. I think the sustainability is absolutely fine, isn't it? We all love that. We all love that about the way the club is run, whether we like the owners or not. We sort of, in general, appreciate that there's a sustainability about our club that probably there isn't about some others. That said, like, the net spend over the last few years is absolutely bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers, and it needs to change because, like we've said a few times, the team needs a refresh. We've got a lot of lads in the 29, 30, 31 kind of area, and it needs a refresh. It needs to happen now, but then you don't get the feeling that it's going to anytime soon. So yeah, look, I haven't got anything to say. I mean, it needs a bit of money chucked at it, even if it's just to make people like us, come on these kind of things and say, "Oh, isn't this great?" Look at what we're doing. Just get the fans going again. And yeah, so yeah, I can't help you. Sorry.
The big worry, I suppose, Paddy, is that a nearly season turns into 2 nearly seasons, turns into Klopp has 1 year left on his contract next year then, and we're all thinking about what ifs, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants that because we love the manager. We love this group, what they've achieved. We also have to address the fact that time doesn't stand still for anybody, and the age group and the age profile of the squad is getting on a little bit. And look, Klopp has to be towing the company line to some extent. He has a group of players to manage, staff to manage, coaches to manage, harmony to manage, and we understand this. But I think the one thing I keep trying to put across, Paddy, is if Klopp is in any way feeling a little bit underhelped, if he does speak out in any way, he will have an entire fan base behind him agreeing with him.
Yeah, of course. And I feel like we'd all love Klopp to come out guns blazing and say what we say. But of course, at the end of the day, he is an employee and he can't necessarily do that. I would have hoped that behind the scenes he is like demanding certain things. But it's just, as you said, nearly this, nearly that. Like, Klopp, there's rumors of when Klopp will leave at the end of his current deal. And then people are saying, oh, you never know, you might sign a new deal. There is not a hope in hell he signs a new deal with the shit he has to deal with here. Squeezing every last penny out of everyone. Yeah, I know we have a good couple of youngsters coming through, but it's as clear as day. We need rejuvenation. We need backing. You know what I mean? We need to be like, we're meant to be Liverpool Football Club, one of the biggest clubs in the world, one of the biggest club in England, one of the second biggest, whatever. We need to be showing that. We need to be flexing our muscles. And yeah, there's no point in going out and buying shit players for loads of money. I get that. You have to be smart as well. But there is players out there that will benefit our team for good. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like we don't have money. It's not like we've suddenly lost our scouting department. So it's truly baffling that we're not doing anything. And we need players now. And we all got annoyed when Klopp said, "Oh, I don't know if we could have been better prepared." Really, obviously could have. But again, his hands are tied to a degree.
I think he was talking. To be fair, I think he was talking about that game in terms of preparation for that game. To be fair, I thought.
Yeah.
What I thought.
Well, yeah. I suppose it could have been taken as that. Obviously, initially, I'm thinking just because he was saying about losing Salah and Mane, it could be prepared better without losing them. But again, he knew that we weren't going to have them. So it depends how you interpret it. But again, we're just in a weird situation, like a limbo. Like we're good, like on our day with our best 11, we're still absolutely world class. But we've just faltered a little bit here and there, and it's cost us in the league. And it's just we need an injection of something. I don't know what it is, but we need something.
I think, Steve, our ambitions have been lowered so much by the lack of support for the manager and activity in the transfer market that when I see people talking about Frank Kessie and Zakaria and these players, I wonder one of two things. Is it because they're cheap or free, or is it because they're generally a good fit? And as you said, that you can't look into everything with net spend, but to be, I think, 3.8 million up financially since 2018 for a club that is challenged like we have, if that doesn't show the owners that they can support the manager and the recruitment will be spot on, I don't know what will.
I've no issue with the level of players, some of the players that we're being linked with. I don't want us to. We're not. Look, I mean, however much we want it, we're not going to be a club that pumps 150 million quid into one player. We're just not. It's just not going to happen. So we can all forget that. I don't mind the level of players we're being linked with. Yeah, I really like Jared Bowen. I really like Calvin Phillips. I really like Zakaria as a really good player. Rafinha. These lads are, they're the kind of level that we go for, where with a couple of years under Klopp, they'll become, some of the world's best players. They'll become fantastic players. The issue is we're not actually buying any of them. Like, we're getting linked with them every summer, but we're not actually buying them. So I don't really mind that so much. There is the point. I don't know if Klopp is. I'd be quite surprised if he's at. I wonder if he's actually part not of the problem, but I can't see a situation where he's basically raging behind the scenes and they're not supporting him. I think he actually loves bringing the young players in, and I think genuinely there's a big bit of him that loves a Harvey Elliott or a Kay Gordon or a Curtis Jones coming in and making a place their own. And I think he wants to do that. I think he takes a kick. He gets a kick out of that as a manager. So I think that there is a point where where it's not all kind of the board over here and the manager over here. I don't think it. Or here, sorry, the one over here, one over here. I don't think it's as simple as that. I think I'm not saying he's part of the problem, but I'm saying that I think that he quite likes to bring a player on, and yeah. So I just Luis Diaz. Someone said Luis Diaz. Luis Diaz would be a phenomenal signing. Phenomenal signing. As would Jarrod Bowen. I talked him down at the start of the season when the links came up first. I think he'd be fantastic. But we're not actually signing them. That's the problem. I don't mind them. I don't mind the links. We're not actually doing anything about it.
Worse than that, though, Paddy and Steve, because not only are we not signing these players, but we're stripping away other players. So we've stripped away Lovren. Took us a year to replace him. Nearly cost us a Champions League place. We've stripped away Gini Wijnaldum. And yes, I fully appreciate that Harvey Elliott was going to get a lot of those minutes, and that was unfortunate. Of course, I understand and appreciate that. But we can't get away from the contractual situation. You said, Steve, that there was 3 players there that we know of, the front 3, that are running 18 months or so. You can add Oxlade-Chamberlain and Keita to that list as well. Although I get the point you were making was that they were the old guard of our attacking players and that they're in this situation. But you're also right in saying, and I think maybe Paddy you'll agree, that FSG, for all their faults, and there are many, they aren't stupid. So there has to be a plan somewhere for them. I just don't know what it is yet, Paddy. I can't work that out.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that Steve's brought up there that I genuinely hadn't really thought about before. That maybe Klopp actually does love the game of bringing youngsters in. He'd done at his time in Dortmund, blooded through a lot of great youth that went on to be superstars. And at the end of it, he's probably thinking he wants to leave behind like these youngsters for the new manager, the new man. So yeah, maybe there is a thing where Klopp is also happy, and then we're cursing FSG, and it's like, well, what do you want us to do? We can't sign it. So maybe it's like we should be thankful they're listening to the manager and not overruling him. So it's all a bit of this, but the constant links make you wonder. Like, we're constantly linked with players. Like that doesn't come just out of anywhere. There's been genuine concrete links with certain players, and just still nothing comes of it. And it's just really frustrating because we're so easily pleased, but we'd love someone. Do you know what I mean? Like, please just sign someone. It would lift up the players around them and just freshen things up. And you're right, though. We did let a few of the Deadwoods leave, or a few other players leave.
Here. Please, sir. Please.
Literally, yeah. This is how bad it was. I believe someone like Chris asked me on a show before, would you take such and such? And it was someone absolutely shy. And I was like, yeah, I probably just would take him for the sake of having someone new. But no, as you said, we let Wijnaldum go, and it is unfortunate because Harvey Elliott was probably going to have a lot of those minutes. But we need like players. Like, we're down to the bare bones right now, and it's tough. It really is tough. But as you said, we hope there's a plan somewhere. But what is the plan? I can't see the plan that's in place right now. It seems a bit aimless.
Yeah, but if you had, we've talked a lot about someone like Jeremy Doku, right? Haven't we on this channel? He's, what is he, 18 now? 18, 19. You bring him in, you put Kay Gordon back 2 or 3 years, right? So this is the problem. And this is, I've no doubt, because Klopp's actually said this kind of thing, hasn't he? He's actually said this. He said that he wants to give the players that are there a chance. So that's that's not me saying we don't need to buy anyone, because I think guys like Rafinha, guys like Jarrod, but Rafinha particularly, I know there's interest. There is absolutely rock solid interest in Rafinha, and he would 100% add to what we've got. But when it comes to, like you said, Paddy, just taking any old player for the sake of kind of a bit of impetus to the squad, you're knocking a young player, but we're bringing a midfielder. You're putting Tyler Morton one place back in the pecking order. I'm not saying Tyler Morton's going to be like a world beater, but we want to be a club that gives him a chance to be a world beater, don't we? And that's the tricky balance.
Well, can you give Kay Gordon the platform at 16 years of age? Like, is it fair to even expect him to develop that quickly at 16 years of age? There's a balance to it as well.
And there's a risk involved, naturally.
Yeah, there is. But I
It's
think
like,
you want them to think like they've got a chance, don't you?
Yeah, of course. No, I suppose, and what I said there about just signing, you're right. I wouldn't want to just sign like a random right winger. That's not. It's either you sign someone who's world class or they're just thereabouts ready to go, or not at all. I like persistent with youth. Because I think you have to recognize also who really is the youth. Like Harvey Elliott, I think he's going to be like one of the best. Like, I think he's the mustard. Cade Gordon, definitely also. But then if you look around the rest of the youngsters, like you can't persist with youngsters for the sake of hope. I think you can recognize which ones are gonna mold into something. I think, and then like Cade Gordon's one of them, Harvey Elliott's one of them, Tyler Morton to a degree. There's some other ones in there like that. There's no point in persisting with. Like I think Billy Cumietio, I think that's kind of a forceful thing at this point. I don't think he's good enough. And I know he's only young, but you kind of have it or you don't at that age, really, like or a relative degree of it.
So not centre back.
Centre back, I suppose, yeah. Or they mature a lot later. Okay, perhaps, yes. But like at a club like Liverpool, at the level we're at, it's like, yes, you want to be able to trust you, but it's also if you have to rely on a 16-year-old that, and when you're competing against the money bags of Man City, it's just a tough situation.
Yeah.
I mean, what wasn't helpful, I suppose, Steve, and I think what wound a lot of us up the wrong way was when you hear, and again, context is important, when you hear Klopp come out after we played Arsenal and they went into 10 men and speaking about, well, any team would miss Mane, Salah, and Kane. Well, you can't say Ada, first and foremost, when you're not playing them.
No, I mean...
We always miss him.
That game was crying out for someone with a bit of a,
crying out for your mate.
My mate Thiago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. I mean, every game's crying out for Thiago, isn't it? He's not been down at football the last couple of weeks either, so I'm not sure if he's all right. But oh, by the way, football. We had an email yesterday from Freddie's football coach. The under sixes at Freddie's football club are going in 2 weeks' time to go and train at the Liverpool Academy.
Oh yes,
Saturday afternoon. Saturday afternoon at the Liverpool Academy. Yeah, they're taking a bunch of different age groups over different weeks, and his one is a week and a half at Liverpool Academy. Absolutely,
wow! I'm sure Freddie's absolutely over the moon, but not as much as Daddy.
I cannot wait. I can't wait. But yeah. So it was crying out for Thiago. It was crying out for someone who either could pick a pass or beat a man in a one-on-one, because the team was lacking pace. Everyone wanted to come towards the ball, and the thing of Mane and Salah, they go the other way, don't they, as well? And without them, I know it's obvious going over old ground and it's kind of pointless, but no one actually beats a man, and I think that's where Cade Gordon, even though he's only 17, he'll take someone on. Harvey Elliott will take someone on. They're brave. They'll beat a man. So yeah, I look, it isn't. There are mitigating factors. There are possible reasons, but I'm totally, we need a bit of help here. We need a bit of help because City are doing what they do every year and they're streaking away, and we need some way of clawing them back, and it's difficult.
It's difficult as well when we look down the line, Paddy. We see like Origi technically could sign a pre-contract now, I believe, with a club outside of England. I know that there is an option there for Liverpool to trigger a year, but I think he has to play a certain amount of Premier League games, which it doesn't look like he's on course to play. Minamino, look, I don't think he's good enough ultimately. I haven't seen any improvement in the 2 years. Enough improvement either at Southampton when he was on loan or for us, but I also appreciate that he hasn't had 10, 15 games in a row. But then that big dichotomy, that big headache comes of the pressure Premier League managers are under to succeed straight away versus, maybe allowing these guys to bed in and the youth to come through and get games. It's a fine balancing act when the pressure is you got to get top four every year, got to get that money.
Yeah, Minamino is a strange one. He seems like such a nice guy that you really just want it to work out for him. I don't know. I like as a bench option, I still think he's fine. He's never going to be starting for us. Let's be honest. So as a bench option, I think it's okay to persist with him. But the Origi one, it's going to be sad to see him go. But I can't see any other alternative but him leaving in the summer for free. It's his best chance to get out. He's going to have a lot of offers, I'd imagine, considering it is a free. I don't think the club are going to be running to give him a contract, especially when they're not willing to give Salah a contract on his current deal. So it's a strange one. well, whatever about now. In the summer, we're going to need serious surgery on like the squad and ensuring we have a good enough bench, because that is nearly as important as starting 11 these days. Because you need to be able to impact the game off the bench, and some days our bench looks so uninspiring. But I know it as you said, it's a fine balancing act at the moment.
Just to come back to Salah for a minute, Steve. There's been talk this week, I think maybe in the Telegraph, that it came out that from what they believe, the owners aren't willing to bend to Salah's demands, for want of a better phrase. Now, for me, I think Mohamed Salah is perfectly within his rights to look for the figures being mentioned if they're 400 grand a week. But also, I wonder, is a lot of what Mohamed Salah is asking for reassurance about the playing staff and the investment and the manager and stuff that he'll need to know over the next 4 or 5 years if he is to tie himself down?
I imagine every single player who signs a contract wants those assurances, don't they? They want to, especially the top end boys, they want assurances that they're staying with or signing for a new, for a club that is going to be competing, because that's where they want to be. So that's why Ronaldo's looking to get out of his contract at United already, isn't he?
But he's some bio, isn't he? He's some
incredible.
bio.
Yeah, I don't fancy it here, so I'll tear up my contract now. Yeah, I'm sure it is. I've no doubt it is. I've no doubt he's asked those questions. It's an interesting one, Salah, isn't it? Because on the like, look, I mean, you can't, if any player in the world demands or deserves whatever money he wants, it's him, because he's off the planet. Would they? I mean, they're talking, some of the money they're talking is like double what anybody else is paid, almost, isn't it? I think Van Dijk's on 200 or something, 220 or whatever. But they're talking, looking at double. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because I mean, I still think he'll sign, but if you start asking for double what everybody else is on, it isn't as easy. There's a whole dynamic of the dressing room to take into account, isn't there, as well? But yeah, I hope and I think he will sign. I think he will.
Because what gets me is, and again, Paddy, you spoke about this the other day when you were talking about the amount of money over the course of the package if he was to sign a 5-year contract. What? Oh, we back?
Back?
Yeah, all good.
Sorry. I was saying, Paddy, what gets to me is, you spoke about this the other day. You said if Salah, the package was about 84 million, roughly, if Salah was to sign on for 4 or 5 years. And how could we replace him with that? But also, we've got to look at the promises that FSG make to players when they come in. Come in, prove yourself, hit your targets, and you'll be remunerated correctly. You'll get your incentives and you'll do well. Nobody has done that more than Mohamed Salah. So I understand his point of pay up.
Yeah, absolutely. And like on what Steve said there, like obviously there is more to it than just like the money that would have cost. I believe it is to manage the dressing room and the wage bill and the wage structure, as they love to harp on about. And Steve said, he's looking for almost double what anyone else is on. But then I say, barring one or two, he's probably doubly as important to us as anyone else in the squad. That's where it comes into it. It's like he's thinking, well, this is not unreasonable. I'm not asking for, like, I am probably twice as important than 75% of the squad. I would genuinely, and I would back that as well. And 400 grand, yes, it's a lot of money. Yes, it completely skews the wage structure. But at the end of the day, like, with the way football's going and the inflation in the football, the wages are naturally going to get up there anyway. So it's like, if you lose the club's greatest player at this current moment, over a wage dispute, the fans will never ever forgive this ownership. And I keep trying to say it, like, we can forgive other things. We've forgiven the Super League things. Well, some people have, etc. And a lot of us are still FSG in, and I am still FSG in. And I said, it depends completely on the Salah stuff. But if they let Salah go, no matter the reason, there is no acceptable reason to let him go. that will cause uproar and they will be run out of the club. And as you said, you break down the numbers, you look at what the money it's going to cost. You can't find someone for that money to replicate what Salah brings to us. Not only is it just goals and assists, like it's the play style. He suits us down to a T. Without him, we play like a different team. With him, we are Liverpool. We are Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool. He is so integral, it hurts. And it's a bit frustrating that we're so dependent on one man. But at the end of the day, he's so good that what harm in it? Give the man the money he wants, and he deserves it. It's not like it's Sadio Mane looking for double, because he doesn't deserve it now based on his latest performances. It's a man that's at the top of his game and probably as good as he's ever been for us.
Is this a bit of brinksmanship, maybe, Steve, from FSG, because they look around the landscape now and see, well, who's going to give him the payday? Maybe PSG. Would he fancy that move? Does he want to go play in France? Barcelona, Real Madrid maybe have other targets at the minute. So realistically, they might think, who's going to pay him?
Yeah. This is why you take everything when there's a big contract. I don't want to say dispute, because I don't think it'll be a dispute. When there's a big contract situation, you take everything with a pinch of salt, because everyone's briefing different people. So we talked before, didn't we, about Mr. Abbas? He isn't afraid to talk a bit, and makes sense for him. Makes sense for him to say to a couple of journalists, you know what, Liverpool aren't playing ball here. They're not giving us what we want. Right, so they write the story. All the fans, if we get like we are now, we get really upset. Next week you see a story come out. He's asking for too much, and that's this thing back and forth with the journalists, with the media, with different people's contacts, different vested interests. It's all just a bit of brinksmanship. It's all a bit of negotiation. I just, like I said at the start, I can't see a situation where this does not get resolved, because it is so obvious. And like Paddy says, the consequences for not fixing this are monumental for the owners. This is a big test. And you made a good point. We've talked before, haven't we, about one of the issues that we have with the way that we spend money is that we have to do these big jumps. Andy Robertson comes in probably on next to nothing, costs £8 million. His wages will have been tiny coming from Hull. He ends up being one of the best left backs in the world. He signs a new contract and he gets absolutely, ton of money that he deserves. And that, I imagine, is a, we're talking big jumps in expenditure for the club across the board, aren't they? So that's the sort of downside to getting the players in the way that we do, because you do have to then, bump them up like this. And but yeah, like I say, I'm still, I just can't see a situation where he goes. Can't see.
I want to bring this up for a second, because this is something that comes up in conversation between Liverpool fans quite a bit. So Paul said, Craig, I live a mile and a half away from Anfield. They're now building the Annie Road end as we speak. That must have cost a few bob. Absolutely, no doubt about it. The investment, the loan was given by FSG for the main stand, for this to be done. But what I would say is, if you're trying to use this as a way to pat them on the back, I would say they're only doing it because they know it will add value to an asset when they move to sell it on, and that it will eventually pay for itself. So not a bad thing, absolutely not a bad thing, but certainly not something I think they need to be lauded for, because it is going to be a money-generating thing. It's like Steve, me, and Paddy buying houses and putting extensions on them. We're probably going to see that money back when we go to sell the house, hopefully with a few quid more. Yeah. So I don't.
It's fair to laud them for it. No, I mean, it's fair to say, well done. We need this investment in the stadium. The stadium needs, we need more people in. That's how you grow the club, and then we're all happier because there's more money coming in. We get more from FFP, and everyone's happier in theory. It's only properly laudable if we then see the benefit, which is the point, isn't it? We're not seeing the benefit of the increased revenue. The increased revenue, if more the amazing commercial activity they do, and they're having bumped up the revenue massively in commercially over the last few years, and that's to be lauded and to be applauded. Fantastic. But right, you've done that. Now we need to see that investment into the playing side, and that's the bit of the chain that's missing at the moment.
Look, for me, and I'll reiterate what I've said, Paddy's saying what it would take for him to turn on the owners fully. For me, it was the Super League. That was it. There was no way back. I mean, I was willing to be quiet, see how things pan out. After that, my cards were marked, and no, that's the end. I don't trust. There's no trust in FSG. For me personally, not that that means anything, but that's just my opinion. I think that John W. Henry, in a heartbeat, would go back and join the Super League if he thought he could get that closed off payday, that Americanized system of, no having to look over your shoulder at qualifying, not qualifying. And look, there are cultural differences there. I can appreciate that as well. But look, for me, I am FSG out. That's where I am. And there's no coming back for me. This is just one in a long line of mistakes, errors, from people that I don't think are stupid enough to make the mistakes that they seem to be making. I think they're done intentionally, and I think he knew what he was at. I don't like the PR video he made afterwards. And I look, there's too many lies for me. Whereas if you can't say in one breath that the investment from Jerry Cardinal was going to be used to help offset the cost or the impact of COVID, which undoubtedly had an impact on all football clubs. And then in the same breath, cry poor mouth and say that COVID has stopped us from being able to do anything. It's either one or the other.
Yeah, no, as you said, you are FSG, and that's fair enough. But
I'm not FSG
in
a bitterly angry way for the sake of it.
Yeah.
For me, it's just been a culmination of mistake and lie after mistake and lie. And I just don't see any goodness there or genuine. And I see too many parallels to what happened at the Red Sox. And Red Sox being a club that, if they are to be emotionally invested in anything, it would surely be their hometown club. And yet they've had that initial success and allowed it to peter away.
Yeah, well, the Red Sox blueprint that has happened is worrying, because I feel like there's a danger of us following a similar suit. And yes, they brought the good times back and blah blah blah. Let's just say they were extremely lucky to find Jurgen Klopp. Jesus, I cannot imagine where we'd be without that man. I adore him. But yeah, no, it's a strange one. They're really testing the waters now. And as you said, yeah, they should be lauded for. They should be like fair play for doing the work on the stadium. That's great. But as you said, Craig, it's not for the good of their own health. They're doing it to add value to their already increasing in value asset. Like, they've made so much money on us, and they want to make more and more.
Paddy, which, by the way, I have no problem with. I never had a problem with them adding value to the club and getting their payday when they sell it on eventually. Never had any issues with that. But it goes back to what Steve was saying about making sure we're able to compete along the way and compete properly. That's the problem for me.
Yeah, no, exactly true. They're able to manage all things. Like just because they're doing up the stadium doesn't mean they can stop investing in the squad, and that's what we're all worried about and annoyed about. So as you said, let's just hope there is a plan there. I failed to see the one that's possibly in place, but I'm hoping. Ever the optimist, I'm hoping.
I'm kind of my FSG position. I'm not I'm not I wouldn't say that I'm massive supporter with them of them. I know I'm with you. They've made some really bad mistakes, and they're not all just naive mistakes. They're the errors of judgment in a lot of cases. But I always kind of go back to what I said around the Super League thing when people were calling for them to be out. I look at all the owners, and they're not even top 20 in terms of bad owners. So I just always think, be careful what you wish for when it comes to owners. I wouldn't want to be owned by a good few ownerships in the Premier League now. And it's that balance, isn't it? We want the success. We're calling now, aren't we? We're calling for them to spend a load of money on players. Well, we only get that by them being cutthroat businessmen, and that's the reality of it, unfortunately, isn't it?
So where is the happy medium then, I suppose, is what we want to try and find as fans, isn't it? Because nobody likes a division in the fan base. None of us take any pleasure whatsoever about fans getting frustrated about tickets, getting frustrated about lack of transfer activity, and turning on each other. And that's the last thing any of us want, whether it be local, overseas, match going, non-match going. Ultimately, we all want the club to be successful. That's why we're here. That's why we have a channel. That's why we talk about the game. That's why we talk about the club. We love it. We love it. And we understand as well that FSG are custodians of a football club. These players are, to one for better phrase, transient employees of a football club that will come and go. But ultimately, we want the club to be sustainable, successful, and there are certainly attributes of FSG that Steve was spoken about as well that are laudable, as in we're in a good financial position. We aren't hemorrhaging money. We aren't leveraged like the Glazers did with Manchester United with crippling repayments. But it just feels like we've addressed the positives enough for me, and we need a little bit of action. And it won't take a whole lot, I don't think, Steve. It won't take, as Paddy said earlier on, nobody's expecting us to go out there and spend 200 million on Mbappe.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. This goes back to what
Wouldn't mind that, though.
for all the kind of stuff I've just said. People not agreeing with in the comments, that's fine. But I did say at the start of all that I want more investment. They need to start putting all this good, commercial work, all the work to increase the revenue of the club. They need to start putting that back into the playing side. And like you say, we're not talking about 300 million quid, Mbappe and Houlden and everyone else. Buying Rafinha, and I think if we bought Rafinha between now and next week, it'd be a much happier, Monday night, wouldn't it? People would be pretty tough with that, and I think that's kind of what we're saying. It's not we're not after like a massive spending spree. We don't need that. It's just to show that you're still interested, to show that you've still got the ambition to get us a bit closer to City.
How are we to finish up, gents? How are we feeling about Thursday night, second leg at the Emirates? If it goes ahead, and people tuning in, I've seen a couple of people in the comments asking about the game. We're not just making up that the game could be postponed on Thursday. There are journalists who have said that it's possible that Arsenal could look for it to be postponed because of the current situation at Arsenal. So, I know people love to have a dig at fan channels and have a pop at us, but everything we speak about comes from reports in the media. So how do we feel about it, Paddy, about the game on Thursday? Have we got much confidence, and how much do you want us to win this trophy?
Well, that first leg, the less said about that, the better. That was, I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from that first leg, and I feel like Klopp and the lads will have learned lessons. The Brentford game has given me a lot of hope. I know it's only Brentford, like they're not as near as good as Arsenal, but there was a lot of bright sparks there. And I obviously we're good enough to beat Arsenal, and I feel like we, after that first leg, I feel like we will. But I feel like it's very much dependent on team selection. I feel like there's a lot of big decisions Klopp has to make. And I'm really intrigued at who it could be. Again, as long as James Milner's not starting in that game, I'll be happy with the 11. As harsh as that may seem, as long as he's on the bench, fair play who you want. Play Carol and Susan and all the tea ladies, whatever I don't care. In terms of how much I want to win it, I've never wanted to win the Carabao Cup as much in my life, and that's a fact. I won't lie and say in years gone by I've longed for winning it, because I haven't. Don't really care. However, now in our current situation, with all the cry arse that went on about the first leg getting postponed and the Premier League campaign looking very City dominant, and no guarantees we could win the Champions League and the FA Cup, I really want to win it. It's a trophy. It's one that Klopp hasn't won, and by the time Klopp leaves, I want him to be able to say, or us to be able to say, he won everything. And that'll be a big thing. So I really want to win it, and we're so close to doing it now. And if we get through this Arsenal shower, we get to play Chelsea, who are not pulling up any trees at the moment either. So it's so crucial we go and smash them at the Emirates, especially after all the crying they've done. And they acted like they'd won that game, by the way, in Anfield. Arsenal fans on Twitter are the biggest embarrassment I've ever seen. They're the most self-entitled fan base. You haven't won the league since 2004. You've never won the Champions League. Pipe down and let the big boys spank you.
Steve, looking at team selection, Ox injury allowing, same team that starts against Brentford?
I don't think it looked like he turned his ankle quite badly, didn't he? So I'd be surprised if he was fit again. Largely the same, though. We're kind of limited by who's around, aren't we? Thiago's still not fit, I don't think. Obviously, the AFCON boys, Ox. So you're a little bit limited. But I don't like. It doesn't. After the first game, I know that everyone got quite upset. I wasn't really bothered. I don't see any way in the world that we don't beat them over 2 legs.
Ruined my fucking holiday coming home to that. Honestly, mate,
Hey,
ruined.
just
got home and I was being
like you got very upset, and I wanted just to you to calm down a little bit and realize there are 2 legs here, and honestly, there isn't even I don't even. And you can play this back next week. I don't even see a chance that we don't win on Thursday. Whether they've got everyone and we've got no. Like, I don't care. They're so brittle. They're so brittle, and
yeah. There's one
it'll
man
suit us so
that I
much
think
when
is
they're
a
coming
must.
at us. It'll suit us so much. Sorry, when they're coming at us,
Sorry,
and we can pick them off. So yeah.
Go on, Paddy.
That's true. And there's one man that is a must for me. His name is Cade Gordon.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see him get a run out. I'd probably start with Nico above Cade if I was being entirely honest. I was very impressed with him when he came on.
Nico Williams wide right. Did he play him? No.
No. That's what I'm saying. Like, if we're talking about like bedding in youngsters, whatever, there's no time. Like, if Nico Williams is going to get if Cade Gordon's going to get game time for us, starting game, it's right now. This is the best chance to bet him in because we need a naturalized right winger, and Cade Gordon, he just has that je ne sais quoi. He has it. I don't want to persist with a right back, a right wing, and who's not even a particularly unbelievable footballer anyway. I'm just going to call a spade a spade. Cade Gordon, I think, will be a ballsy shout. Don't get me wrong, but listen, if things go wrong and he plays terrible, whip him off. I know, confidence, whatever. If he's good enough to be in around the squad now, he's good enough to play against Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? We're not playing world beaters here, and I think it could be really a shrewd selection because who else is going to play there? To be honest, I don't trust Minamino. So
I'm with you on Minamino. I'm with you
on Cade Gordon. What a lovely game for a 17-year-old to play against a team that just doesn't put a tackle in. You wouldn't want to. If you were Cade Gordon, you wouldn't fancy Burnley away, would you? Or someone a bit nasty that's going to stamp on you. What a lovely game to go and play in is Arsenal in a game where they're not going to have. Xhaka's not going to be there, and he for all his faults, he does put his foot in, and he gives them a little bit of experience in the middle. I don't. I think Arsenal are just an absolute shower. They'll beat everyone as soon as they play any of the top 2. You don't lose the number of times they've lost 4, 5, 6-0 to the top teams over the last 5 or 6 years is ridiculous. Like they just don't turn up. There isn't even one bit of me that is concerned about the game.
I wanted to say thank you to Max for his very kind super chat. Appreciate you getting behind your team as well, mate. Appreciate you dropping in and kind words. But you won't be getting the final against Chelsea, mate. Unfortunately, we'll have to sort that out for you, mate. Don't worry, we'll put them in their place for you, hopefully. Right, prediction then, gentlemen, ahead of this game on Thursday. Is there extra time, isn't there?
There's no way goals in this, is there?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. So there's extra time potentially on the cards here.
You would say 3-1, Steve. I was going to say 3-1 as well.
There you go. It's in stone.
It's
in stone.
That's it, done. 3. If that comes back 3-1, that's going to be a legendary clip. They're getting spanked. I'm not scared of Arsenal.
That's a clip for the ages.
So are we all agreed on Alisson, Trent, Robbo, Van Dijk, Matip, Fabinho, Curtis Jones, Henderson? Let's go with Cade Gordon, Firmino, Jota?
Quite possibly, yeah. Quite possibly.
I'd love Jota to play through the middle because I think he's wasted out on the left, but then it's for the sake of Bobby. The forward line's a bit of a headache right now. As I said, please no James Milner. I'm sorry, I'm traumatized. I think Curtis Jones is a must also because he's really offered a real good attacking impetus from midfield in the last couple of games. And when he came on against Arsenal as well. Jota is kind of wasted out on the left, but for the sake of getting Bobby in, then yeah. But I really want to see Cade Gordon. I really, really do. I think it could be really.
I know I'm pushing fullbacks very high up the pitch here, but is there anything to be said for Costas on the left? If things are going a bit Pete-Tong, we need to just get bodies forward.
On the left of the front.
Up the pitch, I mean.
No.
Steve, you're very anti-fullbacks here. Very anti-fullbacks.
You don't play FIFA, Steve, no?
Let's not go start chucking like.
I heard of Gareth Bale.
Positions where they
go on, go the program.
Oh no, come on! Like I mean, maybe if we're winning, 2-1 with 2 minutes to go, you shore it up a little bit, but that's the only way I could see that. But good creativity, Craig.
Why can't Thiago not be
thinking
around
outside
now,
the
by the
box a
way?
little bit.
I'm looking for solutions here,
Wait,
Steve.
where's
you know?
Thiago?
I was very
Bring him,
impressed with
Steve, will
Nico
you?
as well for the last 10.
I'll nip round Thiago's house and bang on the door and see.
I'm very
see what
worried
Have
happens.
this
about
bad
him.
boy ready for a Jota masterclass.
I'm very worried about this
beautiful
Thiago
Jota.
injury, by the way. It's all too up in the air for my liking again. Like too little information.
Yeah. Well,
Steve
Klopp said
knows,
it
he's just not
wasn't.
telling us.
Well, Klopp
No, I
said
never
last
said
week, didn't
right
he?
wing. I said left wing, by the way, just to put that right.
Have you seen the Burnley Watford game's been postponed?
Yeah.
They've announced it. Yeah.
I don't know what to say anymore, mate. I mean, thankfully, from the Premier League's perspective, we've got one game in hand, not too bad. But yeah, there are definitely teams there that have a lot of making up to do, a lot of ground to play. And look, yeah, I mean, where are we with the league? Are we all surrendering at this point, or is there still some optimism?
No, 100% no.
Not just yet. Not just yet.
Would have been nice.
It's going to be unlikely. Yeah. I think we obviously need to win our game in hand and then hope we stay perfect and then beat them and then maybe hope the pressure puts on. We have to stay perfect now. We have to win every single game because I think that's as tough as it is right now.
Yeah, do you know what though?
Very happy with the win against Brentford.
COVID's a proper leveler. Yeah. They could, we could say that they did. I know I'm putting scenarios ahead of us. Say that we did draw a line under postponements, and they had a big outbreak. There's so many variables this season, but like Paddy says, we've got to, we're going to have to be near enough perfect, aren't we? We're going to have to be near enough.
Yeah.
What is it? 17 out of 17, near enough, I think, to have any chance at all. So, yeah, good luck with that.
Let's see what happens.
So we are admitting defeat then. We're being realistic.
I reckon if we went 17 out of 17, we'd win the league. I reckon we'd win the league if we went 17 out of 17 from now.
I reckon you wouldn't bet on us to win 17 out of 17 with my money.
No, 100% no. But you never know. You never know. Like Paddy says, we stay close to them, stay winning, beat them at their place. That would have to happen. And then it could be 3 or 4 points, and it starts to get a bit hairy then. So definitely not. You're definitely not giving it up just yet.
Give it a month.
Little word on Coutinho, Steve, as well before we finish up. Loads to get through this week. I know we've got a couple of minutes over, but loads has happened.
I was always well up for him coming back. I know a lot of people weren't, but I was always well up for him coming back. And you saw the little positions he took up, even in the little cameo he had, the other day. There's little positions just off the front, these little holes, these little, they call them half spaces, don't they? I mean, he's a loan signing. He would have been desperate to come back. Just give him 6 months, give him a chance to prove himself. I'd have had him back in a heartbeat. I'm a bit
weird on this one because, I didn't want him back at Liverpool, but I'd be lying if I said I don't want him to do well at Aston Villa. I do. I want him to do well. I want him to have fans fall in love with him again. I want him to fall in love with football again and enjoy what he's doing. I'm just too bitter about the Liverpool situation to wanted that to be at Liverpool.
I'm over it.
I know that's a fault, but that's the honest truth.
Absolutely over it. Him leaving enabled us to go on and win the league. So it ended up much better for us, and it's ended up for him.
Yeah, but it's also like it annoys me. People might disagree. It annoys me how perfect him coming to us would have been as well. Like it just would have been perfect. Like that love story that's going on now with him having his first goal back, that should be with us. And he would be absolutely unbelievable to have as an option. Initially on the bench, he is still good enough. He could work our way into our starting 11 without question. Look at the trouble we're having now. And I know it's a fanciful idea that was never going to happen because I feel like Klopp is too much of a proud man to let someone back in who kind of fucked us over. But I'm definitely over what happened. And because if he was shite still and he was terrible, I whatever, I wouldn't care. But I just do think he's going to be unbelievable for Villa. I really think he's going to capture that form again. Not quite the 17, 18 level with us, but I think he's going to be very close. And with a man like Steven Gerrard showing him love, with a club like Villa who are massive with an adoring fan base, I think it's made for him now to really rejuvenate himself. And you know what? I have such a soft spot for him, and I was emotional when he scored. I can't even lie. So I hope he does well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope he does well as well. I genuinely do. And they, as you said, Paddy, great fan base of Villa. They will take two and they will get behind them, and that place will be absolutely rocking. So, yeah, all the best to them. But look, thank you to Steve. Thank you to Paddy. Again, we've a lot to unpack tonight. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Shout out to our sponsors, Manscaped. We will be back next week, hopefully celebrating a trip to Wembley booked for the League Cup final. But, you know, fingers crossed. We will talk to you soon. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Paddy. And thank you to you guys as well.
Bye-bye.